criminal justice, healing, education.
Time to awaken the community.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are currently watching from. You guys should know me by now, but if you do not, my name is Holly Sisa. I am the host of this lovely program called Morning Mimosas, where although we love all people, we value justice, healing, and education for the Black and minority communities. So today is going to be another amazing episode. We have an amazing guest coming up. But before I get the episode started, I wanted to make sure that I honored my dear loving friend, Tamisha Little. 3 years ago today, she unfortunately took her last breath, and she was 26 years old. And she was 2 months shy away from being 27. Her passing had affected all of us deeply, and I just wanted to take the time today to make sure that I honored my dear friend and her memory, and making sure that everyone knew the lovely person that she was and that we loved her more than anything in the world. So today we honor Miss Tamisha Little. Today is the 3 year anniversary of her passing. So Tamisha, we love you, baby, and continue watching over us, and we hope you're having a lovely time in heaven. It's really, really hard to talk about my friends that have passed on, but I just wanted to honor her today. But shifting the mood back to something more positive, something happy, right? The guest for today, Miss Granger. Guys, I am so excited to have this lady on Morning Mimosas. But you guys know how we do on this show, right? We have to give her a proper Morning Mimosas welcome. So let's do that right now.
Hey,
Hey, good morning.
good
Guys,
morning.
this is Miss Talonnie Granger. Guys, I have been trying to link up with this woman for a long time, and I'm so glad that I finally got her on Morning Mimosas. I'm just want to give her those poetic snaps, because clapping is great, but snaps are better.
I love that. I'm glad we got a chance to connect for sure.
Me too. So let's start off a little bit about who you are, because even though we're going to be talking about your business, we care about the person behind the business first. So tell the people a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Talonnie. I am a Denver native, born and raised here. My business is in Aurora, so I'm a local girly for sure. I have two kids. My son is 8 and my daughter is 2. She may pop in as we discussed before. In and out. She likes her camera time. So you may see her for a second. Um, yeah, I've been in finance and insurance for almost 10 years now. So it's just truly become a passion of mine. I've had my own agency for about 3 years, and I try to stay very rooted in the community. So I'm glad we got a chance to connect. I know you mentioned reaching out before, and I'm sorry I didn't get this your message or how you connected with me, but I'm glad we got to do it again for sure. But yeah, those are just a few key things about me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yay. And like I said, we are super excited to have her on the show. So you guys heard her mention a little bit about what she does, and I'm going to go ahead and show her lovely media kit. Love the picture. And as you guys know, she is located here in Denver, but her business is in Aurora, Colorado. So she is a local Denverite. I think that's how you say that, Denverite. But I want to get a little bit deeper into why we are here today, other than to see her pretty face, right? We want to talk about insurance, particularly how insurance affects the minority community, and or lack thereof, because it's a big lack thereof. So Miss Granger, we want to ask you first.
Yeah.
What got you into insurance and wanting to provide financial services to people?
So I started off working for Charles Schwab. Um, and I noticed, as I began to kind of move up in the company, there was a disconnect between the amount of insurance people had and their assets. So, just to give you an example, someone may have a brand new Tesla, right? But they have state minimums on their vehicle. So if you have a $50,000 vehicle, but your coverage is only for 25,000, there's a big gap there. And usually financial advisors weren't really touching on that point because they're not versed in that world of insurance. Um, so I just started to notice like the asset management wasn't talking to the insurance and it left a big gap. And that's a huge space for you to lose that wealth you've been working on and accumulating over the years. Um, I also noticed that as I continued to grow, there wasn't a space for my community. So
Right.
I'm driving to DTC and I'm working with a great clientele and amazing people, but nobody looked like me. Um, I got into a space where they're like, okay, well, we're only working with accounts where they have to have $250,000 in liquidity, so that's cash. And I'm like, well, I can't even walk my mom in the front door at this point, so this doesn't fit who I am and what I want to serve.
Right.
So I decided to go out on my own so I can stay rooted in the community and make sure the people who I felt needed those services the most had them. That's kind of what got me started on my journey of entrepreneurship, and it was tough. It was a rude awakening for sure. You understand why the finance industry doesn't target our community, just to be very honest. Um, but it doesn't mean that it's not needed. So it it was a we definitely had a major learning curve those first couple years, to say the least.
Completely understand. So, because you are a Black woman who is working in this specific field, I want to ask you what percentage of minorities actually have insurance? If you know that statistic off the top of your head.
I don't, and I know it's gonna vary state to state. Just especially with Colorado's population for Black minorities specifically being so small. We're like less than 6% of our state.
Mhm.
Yeah, about 6% or less for just to be Black in Colorado. But I don't have the specific stats for the insurance coverage for each.
So, okay, so maybe I should have reiterated that a little bit differently. How often do you see Black and minority people getting insurance? That I should have asked it that way.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. So I my book of business is primarily minorities. So I'm very proud to say that. I see it quite often, right? There's
Okay.
people who have wealth. There's Black business owners, and there are entrepreneurs that reach out to me all the time, whether they're just starting or more established, that have homes and second properties. And so I've got to see the other side of that now that I've been in business for a couple years. But I do, there's a gap, right? There's this small percentage of Black individuals who have wealth and who have assets, and maybe they're just underinsured or they haven't looked at it in a while. And then there's the other ones who are just kind of getting by, right? Or paycheck to paycheck, and they're like, I don't want to put the money into this right now when,
Right.
maybe I got to pay for something for my kids, or I have to, right, pay for something that broke.
Right.
So my job is to kind of help restructure their way of thinking, right? And build things a different way. Like, this is where we need to start. Insurance needs to be our starting point, and then we need to build everything else around it so that if there is an emergency, you're not pulling money off of a credit card or going into debt or having to borrow money or potentially even filing bankruptcy because you can't afford the loss that occurred. Um, So I have been, to answer your question, very fortunate to see Black wealth, and a lot of them are my clients. But there is quite a disconnect sometimes with that, because there is such a small percentage of African Americans in Colorado.
Okay. So my next question for you would be why do you see that why do you see that discrepancy?
Wow. I'm like, where do I start? And that's a great question. So, are you familiar with MOC? So it's Montbello Organizing Committee.
Yes.
With Quant, yeah. So they
Yes.
do a lot of work. SparkU is also a Black-owned business ran by Lynn and Dr. Jamal, and they do a lot of research around like community, the financial gap, wealth gap between our communities, like in the Montbello, Aurora, Denver area, right? Versus even the people that are in the same areas that just have accumulated more wealth. Um, Honestly, being in Colorado, the resources are out there. What I've noticed is that our people aren't necessarily always ready to take those opportunities. So it's like we're not doing the work on the back end. We're not taking advantage of those entrepreneur programs that Montbello puts on twice a year, or even the ones in downtown Denver through United Way, where you can be an entrepreneur and they'll help you kind of scale your business. Um, there's kind of a disconnect with just small pieces, like you don't have a business plan put together but you want a business loan.
Right.
There's tons of grants, but maybe your business doesn't have the requirements because you didn't put together your corporate book. So the main thing I notice is just not being prepared to take those opportunities as they come.
Okay. Thank you for that. So one of the things that we discussed backstage briefly was, for the most part, we see when something arises in our community, whether a family member is sick or has passed away, we depend on something that Morning Mimosa fans, you guys know I hate this. GoFundMe. I absolutely despise it. And that's why I'm so glad that Miss Granger is here to talk to you guys about that, because guys, we need to start investing in ourselves. We can't not be investing in GoFundMe's, but I'm gonna let her go into that.
It's Holly.
Please talk about, hey baby. Please talk to our community about why GoFundMe's are not efficient
A
for
way
us.
to bury your family members.
Yes.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of just myths around life insurance in general. So I'm glad you brought this topic up. The first thing that I really wanted to touch on when it uppy, sorry.
It's okay.
The first thing, right? The first thing I really wanted to touch on with life insurance is there is some sort of policy for everybody's affordability range. So a lot
Right.
of times people just think they can't afford it. But there's policies out there that are sometimes $20 to $30 a month. Um, Even cheaper depending on your age and your overall health. But you can't depend on GoFundMe, because it's like, how often could you depend on somebody to borrow money when you were here, right? And then even it gets old. Like, we're tired of buying fish dinners and barbecue plates. Like, it's
Right.
it's just one of those things that you put your coverage in place when you're younger, and you do want to check those things annually, just to make sure it still aligns with your life, and your overall value. But I think we just put too much emphasis on it as it's too expensive and we can't afford it, or it doesn't really pay out, or it doesn't really work. And I think that really comes from just get somebody that's trusted and educated on how to utilize these actual products. And I know we love to talk about life insurance and have the conversation around like be your own bank and fill the life insurance policy, take money from it. And if you're not in a certain tax bracket, that might not be the right conversation. If you're concerned about paying $50 a month for your life insurance, we don't need to talk about those type of life insurance policies. But having some type of term insurance in place never hurts.
This is true. This is true. So why is it that our community, so why are we not knowledgeable in knowing about the affordability? Why are we so scared of, are we scared of another bill? Like what is the fear around getting life insurance? Life insurance is another, is a bill that we actually need that can benefit us. So I guess my question is why are we not educated in knowing these things about insurance and how it can benefit us, not just when our loved one has passed, but when the life insurance that we're able to use when we're alive. That's where I was going with that.
You know what I've really learned over the years is a lot of this stuff is rooted in trauma, right? We may hear from our parents or our grandparents how you don't trust banks or any of these financial institutions because all they do is take your money. And then you see predatory things in the news to back that up, like how Wells Fargo is. So it's rooted in trauma a lot of the times where we're like, I don't trust that. I don't have money for that. We've kind of been programmed to think that certain things are only for the wealthy. So I think a lot of it is just kind of reprogramming our thought process and understanding that we can find trusted financial partners. Every bank isn't the same, and there are financial products that are affordable for us. But a lot of things in our community, they're just rooted in trauma. Like if you have your grandmother, your great grandmother, and everybody telling you these horror stories about how your Uncle Bobby had this policy and it didn't pay out, and y'all paid all this money and it only paid you $5,000 in 30 years, right? You're like, what am I doing this for? Y'all still had to come up with money or pull money together from community and family and friends. So that we carry that with us. And a big part of it is just making sure that we educate people now on, you probably do have a life insurance policy that grandma put in place 30 years ago that she thought was a great fit, but she never went back. Or an insurance agent never checked in with her and said, hey, this policy might be upside down. We might need to get you into a different product, right?
Right.
So that it definitely comes from a real place. Like we've been through some things, but there are resources for sure.
And you are now one of Morning Mimosa's resources, and I'm so grateful for that.
Of course, yeah.
So my next question is why, because you mentioned resources, if these resources are out there, is there a reason why our community is not more educated in insurance and or gaining financial services outside of what you already explained, like affordability and a lack of knowledge? I think that's like the best way for me to say that. Is there other redeeming factors that make people be like, okay, I'm not going to do this life insurance policy, and then all of a sudden, oh, excuse me, little Ray, was hit by a car, and then we have to come up with all this $6,000 for a funeral,
right?
And then what? So I just want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
What I've come across is just a lack of interest sometimes, to be honest. Like people don't want to talk about it until they need it, right? You may have your auto insurance in place and you don't too much care about it until you see an increase in that premium. And then you want to have the conversation. She's dancing in the curtains. Yeah. So I think one thing is just a lack of interest until it's time. And sometimes these are really tough and emotional conversations. Nobody wants to talk about like what it looks like if mom or dad or your auntie passed in the aspect of life insurance, right? So And sometimes even within our community, talking about anything financial is uncomfortable. Like, I as a kid, I didn't know how much money my mom and dad made or what it would look like to cover their overall expenses if something happened to them. So how do you have those conversations with your kids, even your adult kids? People find it hard to talk about. And that's just the space of life insurance, right? When we come and think about like home insurance and auto insurance, those things are like, well, you just have to get it, right? And people
Right.
know, like, if I need to get these tags on my car, I got to get at least state minimums. What's the cheapest policy?
Right.
So it's just kind of been normalized to be like, okay, well, I know I need it for the home and auto stuff. Let's just put something in place. But the life insurance, the hardest part of that is it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to talk about that. And we kind of need to switch the narrative because you mentioned
Yes.
before, Holly, like life insurance is for the living. And there's so many great tools and products that, I put in place for my kids now. So when they get older, they could just pull that cash out. And whether they use it for a down payment on a home or they want to buy a car, they'll have that money tax free to pull from. But these are things you put in place while they're little, right? But I have
Yeah.
some people who are like, I'm not putting life insurance on my kid. That's bad luck. No,
Yeah.
it's guaranteed insurability. It's an asset. What you say? Go say, Holly.
Oh, that. Okay, so that's the one that gets people is they don't believe in life insurance because they think that they're jinxing their kids' life expectancy or something like that, and I'm like that's why I did that. I'm sorry. I was just like,
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
you
No,
already
I
know.
come across that quite a bit. Like, what do you think, my kid is going to die? No, I think your kid is going to live and thrive. So when they're doing that, they're going to need money. That's what I like about life insurance, right? They're going to go and do these great things, but and the last thing you want to do as a parent is be like, I can't help you fund this.
Mhm.
It's a lot easier to be like, hey, grandma, grandpa put your 529 in place when you were 2. So you have that for post-secondary education of any kind. We also have this life insurance policy that you could pull this cash out of, and you don't have to worry about it. We've done this stuff for you. We've taken these steps. And you get to give your kids those opportunities that you think are only afforded to people who don't look like you. Like, you can have a gap year if you want. You can travel if you want, because we set that money aside for you to have that liquidity and not have to worry about your bills or your day-to-day stuff. Like, we got you.
And
And
that's what.
oh, go ahead, Holly.
No. And I was gonna just say that, and that's what the focus needs to be when it comes to people getting insurance. I don't want people to think about, oh, I'm paying this extra cost. Oh, it's an extra bill or whatever the case is. I want people to think of it as you putting money back for yourself. I think of certain life insurance policies as like a savings account, right? You're putting that money in, and you'll be able to use it while you're living. Guys, I need my viewers to really listen to me when I say this. There is life insurance for when you guys are alive. I'm really, really tired of the notion that life insurance is only for when someone is dying or is dead. Like, and that's why I'm really glad that I connected with Miss Granger. I really need someone like her in our community to continuously explain that, so we're not making GoFundMe rich or PayPal or Cash App rich or Chime or Venmo or not knocking those businesses. But I'm just saying it's time for us as people to really invest in us, because I mean,
Right.
just look at all the calamity that's going on in the world right now. We definitely need to take care of us and our families. But I just wanted to go ahead and I just wanted to make sure that my viewers heard that, and I
Yeah.
want to make sure they hear that.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, life insurance is only for the living. Just because you put the policy in place doesn't mean you're going to use it, just to be real, right? Especially if it's on you. You put that in place for somebody to bury you, somebody to pay your taxes one more time, somebody to take care of your final expenses, but they're using that money. It is
Right.
100% for the living. right? Or say, for example, you have individuals who are in a space where they're setting up trusts. Those life insurance policies are replenishing the money you spent over your lifetime, so that the next generation can continue to pull from that money and grow and have opportunities, right? So it's 100% for the living. There are different policies you touched on a little bit that have that cash value, and they're great. It just, think about what's affordable for you. Like, it's okay to be like, I don't want to spend money on this life insurance or on this auto policy, right? It is a hassle to think about it, but when you really need it, you're gonna be so thankful, right? Like, that little
Right.
50 wasn't nothing, right? Now I have this $10,000 check that's coming to cover this expense that happened. Maybe it's happened associated with your home or a car accident. But the biggest part of, like, when those things occur is the stress financially that can happen. Like,
Right.
you can't mourn your loved one if you're trying to figure out how to bury them, how to pay for some vehicle they might have left behind. Maybe it even
Right.
has sentimental value, and you don't want to give their truck back that that they left. You want to drive it, but you can't afford
Right.
it because there was barely any money to bury them, right? So there is just little things, right, where you think, okay, if I'm paying, I don't know, how much is our average mortgage? About $2,800 to $2,300 a month for your mortgage, right? And you're putting 100 and something dollars away every month for homeowners insurance. Why are you not that important? Like, that's the part I don't understand. You've acquired all these assets, and you're the $1 million prize here, but you don't feel like you're worth it enough to put insurance on yourself. So it's kind of just, look at it that way and remember that you're an investment. You make things move in your household, and when you're gone, what does that look like, right? You want to still be able to create that stability. I always say, like, if something happens to me tomorrow, at least my kids can get really good therapy, right? Like, things are going to keep moving. They're going to be able to
Right.
afford things. It's just going to, they have that space to mourn now. They don't have to worry about being uprooted from their home. Their dad doesn't have to worry about how he's gonna pay for things or handle things because my additional income isn't here. It's like, okay, these things are still gonna keep going, but I get to take time off and mourn, or I get to have this set up for my kids later. Right? When you take that financial piece out of it, a lot less stress comes off of you.
Guys, oh my goodness. All this information today has been absolutely amazing. So, do you have any final words, thoughts that you want to tell the people about you or about what you do, the services that you specifically offer for the Denver area?
Yeah, sure, of course. Look, all this stuff can be really intimidating. Finances in general are intimidating, but we're always a resource. You have all my information, so please feel free to share with your network.
I
And
will.
you can call or text or send an email and just ask questions. Information is free, right? It doesn't cost any money to get a quote or to say, this is my current situation, or I'm even being transparent and saying, look, we got all these bills and all this debt. We just came out of Christmas and we don't know what to do. What do we even pay for or do first, right? These are normal things. And that's what my agency is here to do, is support that. So yeah, we're here to be a resource. That's the main thing I want to make sure that I put out is, it's okay to not know, and feel free to reach out and ask some questions.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you so much again for being on the show today. We will definitely be bringing you back because we definitely need you more and more and more. As you guys know, Morning Mimosas
I love
values
it.
human life, but specifically, we value criminal justice, healing, and educating for the Black and minority communities. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you, Holly.
Yes, ma'am.